call. And tonight we have Barry Kirk, who is our resident Omega expert, that we'll be discussing the Coligar tournament tactics this evening, and maybe even get into some other things. You never know. Sorry, Russ mentioned that he'd uninstalled Chrome. It was not for SFU on call, and I would do the same. Actually, if I didn't have that, if I didn't use YouTube Live, because sorry, you were just complaining about the changes to SFU on call and how we lost some of the control, and that has definitely caused some issues. But good. Russ saying you also can hear me on YouTube Live because I'm also dual streaming this. So if anyone who doesn't want to join us at Talk Show, but just wants to listen in or even want to chat over there, because every once in a while I keep an eye on for any chat, and usually there's nothing for YouTube Live, but I still keep an eye on it, and I do broadcast live on YouTube, so that I do have that multiple way of doing that. But anyhow, moving onward and forward from those lovely, lovely thoughts of, let's stop there. And well, I might as well bring in the one, the only, the Barry Kirk. How you doing, Barry?
Hey, am I muted or unmuted?
Well, I hear you, so that means you're unmuted.
Okay. I was waiting for a response. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I had suggested to Paul a few days ago or last week about doing since he had done a whole series on all the tournament ships. I said, well, we did some experimental tournament cruisers with the Omegas a couple of years back, and thought maybe we should do some strategy on those, because that is near and dear to my heart. So
understood.
I think last week we did the Mazaron.
Yep.
And I figured this week we do the Coligar. And actually, the Coligar is my favorite of the Omega tournament cruisers. And I should say that's the one I originally created. Well, let me rephrase that. I was given a whole bunch of tournament cruisers. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say who they came from. I'm not going to say that.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me it came from Ken Burnside, because Ken Burnside did the original Omega tournament cruisers back when he ran an experimental tournament. Well, experimental tournament at Origins. And that was because I know that because I was there.
I don't think I had permission to mention his name.
I'm not sure why that would be a problem, because it's not like some people who are completely banned from all existence when it comes to ADB stuff.
Yeah.
There's at least one person I know of.
So, based on those experimental cruisers, the Coligar and I basically made two minor tweaks to it. And voila, that was the one that I originally put in Starfleet Battles Online. And the two tweaks I put on it were there's 3 weapon systems on the Coligar. It's got microphasers. It's got, for its phasers, it's got antimatter cannons for its heavy weapons. And then its tertiary weapon is called an antimatter cloud generator. And the antimatter cloud generator's closest equivalent in the alpha octet would be the ESG. It's damaged on drone hits. It runs off a capacitor. There's a 32 impulse delay in there. So there are some similarities with the ESG. In the rule book, the original The original color guard had a antimatter cloud generator with a 4-point capacitor, but there's also mention that they increased the size of the capacitor to 6 points of energy. I can't remember the exact date when that happened, but it was basically an upgrade.
Right.
And I gave the color guard that 6-point upgrade. And tell the truth, going back to the 4-point might not be a bad idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, the question is, did it need upgrade to 6 points?
Yeah, it probably doesn't. So I'm probably going to back that off. But we did play test it, and to tell you the truth, that the difference between 6 and 4 points really is a minor tweak. Because at 4 points it can do what it needs to do, and 6 it doesn't make it any more potent, or not much more potent.
Agreed.
So the other thing I did was that I had a problem with the way the rules were written in the Omega rulebook for the microphasers. And what they did was they said with the microphasers, they damage, they do everything. They're kind of like a regular phaser. There's a microphaser 1 and a microphaser 3. It runs off a capacitor just like a regular phaser. And the only other difference between it and a regular phaser is the firing table. Whereas the microphaser is hit or miss, and if it hits, it does full damage. If it misses, it does no damage. And the longer the range, the less damage it does. Mm-hmm. But it's within bounds. It's at short ranges, it does a little more damage than an alpha phaser. At longer ranges, it does a little less. But it's in the ballpark. It's not overrated. It's not underrated. It's just about where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. But somewhere in there, Bruce Ross said, "Oh, and by the way, microphasers damage plasma torpedoes 1-to-1 instead of 2-to-1 like all other phasers." I don't know why that rule is there. Right. And all of a sudden, the Kogar, which you balance against all of the ships, and hey, it's balanced and it looks good, and then against anybody who uses plasma torpedoes, it destroys them. Mm-hmm. So I said, as a tournament special rule, which I think should tell the truth, that should be the case for
a general overall change in the rule. I know
is just, hey, it damages plasmas just like any other phaser.
Right.
There was no reason for that rule. It was just, hey, let's put that in there just because we can. There's no balance reason for it. If anything, it's completely unbalancing.
Oh, understood.
Because what it means is that, yeah.
I'm assuming...
Paul, you and I have talked about that a lot. So you understand my reasoning. I'm just saying this for the general audience.
Oh, understood. The big question, obviously, is, was there a reason to begin with for having it so it was 1-to-1? Was there an issue that they found with the other plasma-like races for the Omega?
It's not mentioned in the rule book at all. It just says, and it damages plasmas 1-to-1. And it doesn't give any reasons as to why. That's not listed. And I looked through the entire rule book. I could not find that. Mm-hmm. I've talked to Bruce Groff. He didn't remember any reason for it.
Okay.
But his original notes went bye-bye with his hard drive.
Oh, understood. I assume that basically currently the Patrick's reasoning is that that's the rule. Basically, there should be a difference rule between the tournament and regular play. Yeah,
Patrick said was that that's the rule, so that's what we're going with, and it's like But if you put that special rule in there, I found that the tournament cruiser that we have wins about half its games and loses about half its games against alpha, just about every alpha octane ship. So that's a good indication that, hey, this is a balanced ship that can be
a balanced ship
used
for fighting against alphas, yes.
Against alphas, right?
Because that's always the question in my mind. Because we've had this discussion, which is
I know
having integrated versus keeping it separate. I always thought it should be kept separate, and then we can tweak the rules all we want, and for this is Omega only, and also any tweaks to the rules would be, in my mind, at least balancing for the overall rule book. Possibly, maybe some desperate hope. Maybe very desperate, that the rule book will actually be looked at and tweaked and fixed for those issues that we found with the Omega rules.
Yeah. Well, the only thing is that here we've got a rule book that is everybody knows that the Omega ships are completely there's a lot of the races that kind of work and a lot of them that no way in hell, not even close.
Oh, understood.
And so obviously it's flawed. It was never really play tested, and so the question is, so
I agree that a lot of the play testing of the Omegas was very poorly done.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. So certainly when a Singer destroyer 90-point BTV can take out an Andromedan intruder from 15 hexes away,
that's a bad thing, especially since my understanding is when it comes to the history of the Andromedans and the Omega Octant, the Omegas struggled muchly until they got the not the PFs, the PF-like ships. I forgot.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot those what those were called.
Whatever they are, they're. Yeah, and I don't mind that their PFs are a little bit different. That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like a lot of this flavor, The fact that every Omega race, or most of them, there's about 5 or 6 different. And one of the things I thought was kind of fun was that in Alpha, every Phaser 1, every Phaser 2, every Phaser 3, aren't all identical. If one race has a Phaser 1, everybody else's Phaser 1 is identical. In Omega, you've got about 6 different varieties of phasers, and they all play differently. And that, I think, is an interesting flavor, but they didn't. If you balanced it, you put a little variation here or there, but you keep them within reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I definitely, I think we all can agree that the play testing need more work need to be done when it comes to balance and play testing the ships to achieve a decent balance when it comes to overarching weapons and interactions between the weapons and the ships that those were actually applied on. Because obviously part of the weapons themselves is the arcs of those weapons and what the limitations are, when it comes to the arcs.
Yeah.
Because I know there are things like for the Federation, photon torpedoes always were FA arc. That was very There's a limitation. You never saw like FA plus R, FA plus L arcs for photon torpedoes.
Correct.
Correct.
No photon torpedo has more than a 120 arc.
Right. Exactly. And that was that's a function. That's almost that's how you define a photon torpedo. is a limitation of
Yeah.
those arcs. Versus a disruptor can have 180 degrees or possibly more degree arc.
227. Yeah, I've seen FX disruptors.
Yeah, for disruptors, I've seen FH plus L and FH plus R on some.
Yeah, that's FX.
No, I don't think I've ever seen FX.
I have. The Lyran Democratic Republic has a couple of FX disruptors.
Yeah. Your point. Good point.
Yeah.
I was thinking about like D5, one of the D5s. I think it was.
Yes, the D5 does have an FH plus L, and then two of them are FH plus R.
Yep.
Yeah. Scary that I remember all this stuff.
Well,
can't remember what I had for dinner, but I can remember ships that I haven't played in.
Oh, that's going to be interesting when you get older and you start forgetting. You really start forgetting things, and you'll still remember how to play Starfleet battles, but you won't remember your kids' names.
Yeah. Oh, who are you? Oh, you're my daughter? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember that D5 had an FH plus L and 2 on the H plus L and 2 on the FH plus R.
Uh-huh.
And 5 P1s and 4 P3s. I think they got rid of the waste phasers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Dave. That's a neat ship. Dave just mentioning that the F6 has 2 FX disruptors itself. You know,
okay.
F6, the Frignaut.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a cool ship.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. But to get back to our topic at hand.
Yeah.
This is the color guard.
So we have microphasers, which I think is a neat concept.
An all or nothing. We said to hit phaser. You know.
Yeah.
You hit or you miss.
Right. So, yeah. And it averages out to about, at ranges 2 and under, it averages out to about a half a point more per phaser 1 than a regular P1. And at ranges 3 and higher, it averages out to about a half a point less, roughly. So, it's within the ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
It is a much better drone killing weapon than a phaser because it's hit or miss, and at range 1, a microphaser P1 does exactly 6 points of damage and is automatic hit. And a microphaser P3 does 4 points of damage and automatic hit at range 1.
Yeah.
So, in that sense,
and the crazy thing is, for all those stinking microphasers, is microphasers versus cloak. I'm not sure if you noticed. Range 0 is 1 to 7 to hit.
I did notice that. It is really good in a electronic warfare. If somebody drops a weasel, and yes, it does have some built-in ECCM, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And I think PM3s at range 0 or even 8. That's
yep, you're right. It is. It's 1 to 8 for the for the micro the M3s.
The M3, yeah. However, having said that, at range 2, the microphaser 3s drop off to 3 points, which means that a single microphaser 3 cannot kill any drone, guaranteed at range 2, whereas a regular phaser 3 has a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
So that is a trade-off right there, is that you have to get the range 1 shot because the range 2 shot isn't going to get it done.
Yeah, so that just means that, 1, you have to worry about timing because you don't want to go from range 3 to range 2 to range 0.
Right.
But at the same time, you don't, unlike the normal phaser threes, you don't have to worry about having a second shot, because with a phaser
Correct.
three, you have to possibly do range 2, so that if it gets to range 1, then you can finally kill it.
Yeah.
Versus if you only go for range 1, there's a chance, there's a 1/3 chance that you actually will fail.
Right.
In which case, you could be possibly screwed. Obviously,
Yeah.
depending upon facing and all that kind of thing.
Right. But the 1-to-1 against plasmas just is, it makes any plasma race useless against the color guard. When the color guard cruiser has 8 PM1s and 2 PM3s, which means at range 1 front center line, you do 56 points of damage, guaranteed. No
Right.
more, no less.
Right.
And that takes an EPT plasma S and reduces it to a 4-point warhead. So
Yeah,
if you can get that plasma S to EPT and front center line it at range 1, you could pretty much plow right through it and take virtually no damage.
Right.
And you can battery, and with 4 points of batteries, you can battery the rest.
And Barry,
no damage.
That's not the big point. That's not the big issue. The big issue with that is that you no longer have to decide on whether you're going to fire at the plasma or fire at the ship. You can do both.
Yes.
That
you have enough faith.
You have enough phasers. You can do enough damage to the plasma so that you take very little damage from the plasma and still have enough
without using all your phasers.
Right, without using all your phasers, and still be able to damage the other person's ship, because that's one of the reasons for the plasmas that you launch a plasma is one is for obviously mobile terrain, but in addition to mobile terrain, it's to force your opponent to fire their weapons at the plasma instead of you.
Right.
So that means you can come in closer and you can fire your phasers at them while you're firing at their plasma.
Right. So that's that. Now, everything else about the ship is really neat, and let me discuss some of that neatness. So you have these antimatter cannons, and antimatter cannons take. There's 4 firing modes for them. There's a single standard, a double shot standard, a single caseless, and a double shot caseless. And let me describe the different firing modes and what they do. Yes. Single shot, whether it's standard or caseless, does 6 points of damage if it hits. It is more accurate than a photon torpedo. At range 6, it hits on a 1 through 4. At range 3, it hits on a 1 through 5. At range 0, the double shot can be fired for an auto hit. Single shots do 6 points of damage. Double shots do 12 points of damage. So you can kind of think of it as a photon light. It takes 3 points of energy to arm a single shot, 6 points of power to arm a double shot. Single shots can be held for 1 point of power. Double shots can be held for 2. So, other than it's a little bit more accurate and does a little less damage and takes a little less power to charge, it's pretty much identical to a photon light. It does have a faster firing rate than a photon, but not as fast as the disruptor. It's a single turn arming weapon with a 32 impulse firing delay. So it's and you can hold an overload just with a photon, and you can take a single shot and overload it later, either during energy allocation or with reserve power. So there's all that stuff that parallels a photon, but as a light. You have 4 of them, and their firing arcs are, you have 2 that are FA, 1 that is LFL, and the other one is RFR. So unless you can get a center line shot, you're probably only going to get 3 into arc. So it's a little lighter damage than a photon, and you're not guaranteed to be able to get all 4 of them off at once. So that does make it weaker than a photon, but as I said, it can fire faster.
Right.
Slightly, because 32 impulse kind of splits the difference between single turn arming and double and 2-turn arming. It also allows you the strategy of don't charge it and then let it sit empty, and then put the power in on a turn that you can use it, letting the 32 impulse clock run out. So if you fire it late in the turn, you can just skip arming it the next turn if you need, and you don't have to worry about arming it on a turn that you're not going to use it, which is kind of nice. The caseless mode does the identical damage, has the identical accuracy of the standard mode. 6 points of damage if it hits for a single, 12 for a double. And the caseless uses less energy, 2 points of energy to arm a single shot, 4 points of energy to arm a double shot, which makes it 50% more power efficient. And the caseless mode has an 8-impulse firing delay. It's like, well, if caseless, and it's the same holds cost for standard or caseless, 1 point for singles, 2 points for doubles. So you're looking at this going, well, why would anybody ever arm a standard instead of a caseless if the caseless does identical damage, identical accuracy, faster firing rate, and takes less power to arm? Well, the caseless can't damage shields. Which
explain how this works when it comes to versus a shield, because you explain. I read that part in the tactics paper, and it's like wow, it's crazy
it's
how it works.
I know. The way it works is you take all your caseless shots and you figure out how much damage they did, and you add all that damage together. So let's say you had 2 caseless double shots and they both hit. That does 24 points of damage. And let's say it goes against a 20-point shield. You subtract the 20-point shield from the 24 points of damage, just like you normally would, and you do 4 internals. But it didn't damage the shield. So he took 4 internals, but he still has his 20-point shield untouched. And that includes reserve reinforcements too. So if he reinforced 4 points of reinforcement, that 4 points of reinforcement is still there. Now he may have, if he used batteries to do that reinforcement, the batteries are drained, but the reinforcement's still there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So let's say you have 24 points of damage on the 20-point shield, do 4 internals. And let's say you fire a standard antimatter cannon, single shot, doing 6 points, and and a whole bunch of PM1s, doing an additional 18 points of damage. So you have, from the standard shot and the phasers, you've got an additional 24 points of damage. Ordinarily, it was 24 and 24. You make it 48 against a 20-point shield. Track the 20-point shield, you have 28 internals and no shield. Here, what you do is the caseless always goes first. So it did 24 minus the shield is 24 internals. Then your 24 points of other stuff goes against the shield, knocks that down. So you have 4 internals from one, 4 internals from the other, but they're combined to be a single volley. Weird. But
Yep.
what it means is that your shield was used twice. Your shield got to be used
The opponent's
twice.
shield got to be used twice. Yeah, the same box on that shield got to use twice. It's
Yes.
crazy.
Right.
But there is obviously one benefit. Because I was just did a quick read on the caseless, and you can, after you fire with a case on it, you can fire it 8 impulses later using caseless.
Correct.
Which is something to keep in mind. That
Yes.
even if you fire it, with a standard, you don't have to wait 32 impulses to fire it as caseless.
Right. But if you fire a caseless, you still have to wait 32 impulses before you can fire it standard.
Right.
Yeah.
So switching back and forth is not easy.
Now the other thing is, if you start arming it as caseless, you cannot convert it to standard unless you discharge the weapon and rearm it.
Right. It's just
now, discharging it doesn't cause a delay. It just means you lost all your energy.
Right. It's kind of like a photon torpedo, where if you switch it to proxy mode, you create a proxy plasma torpedo. The only way to get rid of a proxy is either to fire it or to discharge it. So you can
you can wait an impulse. You can change it in EA. But you're thinking of an overload. An overload, once overloaded, you cannot unoverload a photon.
Right.
But you can change a prox to a standard and back again, but you have to do it during EA.
Okay. Tells you how often I play. I fire photons.
Yeah. But in any case, so yeah, you can't mix and match the modes. You can't have a antimatter cannon where it's got one shot of standard and one shot of caseless. You can't do that. Both shots have to be caseless or standard. So, but what a flexible, interesting weapon.
Oh, agreed. And as you pointed out in the article, it's like having 2 weapons in one.
Yes. Now, as I said, the downside is that with the firing arcs, which is a plus and a minus, but it means that you're not going to be able to get that super crunch of a photon torpedo doing 64 points of damage. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
But you can do more than a disruptor. But it costs you more too. So disruptors at close range can do 40 points of damage for 16 points of energy. Whereas here, if you have 3 of them, you're only doing 36 points of damage. But for 6 times 3 is 18 points. So it's less efficient than a disruptor in standard mode.
True.
So you have actually less crunch than a disruptor ship, unless you get the center line.
Right. There's there's minor overlap. At range 6, a single shot will do as much damage as an overload. Oh, that's true. That's disruptors.
Yeah. I'm talking a disruptor at range 2 or 1 or 2. I think does 10 points of damage each.
At range 1, does 10
Yeah,
points of damage. I think I'm pretty sure Disruptor range 2 does 8.
it does. Yes. Okay, so then you're 32 points versus 36. So it does a little more than a Disruptor. But then again, as I said, it takes more energy,
Right.
but it can be held. So there's it's in the ballpark.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Okay. The antimatter cloud generator is
Which is
kind of
this is an interesting little weapon.
it is. It's the only weapon in the game that has a miss and a near miss capability.
And yeah, I was one thing I was reading through after I read your tactics manual, tactics paper, sorry, about that, and it's like, whoa. It it just comes down to, I was reading this. Also, I was reading about the heats torpedoes. You know, it's kind of redundant there because heat. The T stands for torpedo. But anyhow, and I come to the realization that a lot of these weapons, at least like the cloud generator and the heat, they're not designed for duels. They're designed particularly with fleet engagements in mind. For example, the heats, you can change targets of that torpedo in mid-flight. That only matters if you have more than one ship.
Actually, there is another reason for that. You can use a heat and you can give it a ballistic targeting, and then now you have to program the change of target before you launch, but you can give it a ballistic target when you launch it and change targets later. Here's an interesting tactic. You a whole bunch of them ballistically targeted at a ship at, moderate close range at a slow-moving ship. That slow-moving ship drops a wild weasel, but they're ballistically targeted. They don't track the weasel.
Right.
You phaser down the weasel, and if you've timed it right, the weasel is voided, and all of a sudden they change tracking. Oh, there's no weasel.
And also, couldn't you, in theory, basically have a ballistic target which is past the ship, and then have it so it then turned around and came in and hit a different shield?
Yes. You could do that too.
Yeah, but getting back to the ACGs.
The other thing you can do with the heat, and I'll ask one last thing, is that you can fire heats that are not in arc.
Right.
Ballistically targeted,
right.
And then have them change target.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
But yeah, so that's an interesting tactic.
But that brings us back to the ACG. The reason why I was saying that about the fleets is because of the near misses and the miss. If you're firing an ACG into the middle of like one of your opponent's fleets, not so bad.
Well, the ACG really wasn't meant to be used against. What it really isn't designed for is it's not designed to be used against ships. Remember, anything with a shield gets to pick where the damage goes against.
That's true.
Okay. So I've got 5 down shields and I get hit with an ACG. I can take all the damage on the one shield that's up, even if it's not facing.
Right. That's true. Yeah, a good point there.
And right. Now the other thing is it runs off a capacitor. And unlike an ESG, I don't have to use the whole capacitor. I could use 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, up to the full amount that's in the capacitor when I discharge it.
Right.
And it has a 32 impulse delay.
Of course.
But it's an area of effect weapon. It damages everything in the hex that it hits.
Yep.
And does the same amount of damage. Which means that if there's mega drone stack coming at you, and it doesn't affect the plasma torpedoes,
right?
But only phasers do. But there's that mega stack of drones. So that Kazini tournament cruiser has done a maximum effort. His Weasel his scatter pack has blossomed. He's got 10 drones headed your way, and you get them all in the same hex, and you drop an ACG, and it hits all 10 drones, and poof, they're all gone.
Which, what that does, it does the same thing that a Drominance T-bomb does.
Yes,
in my mind,
it is a direct, but it's better than a T-bomb because it's direct fire, and it's instant, and you can.
Oh, understood.
You don't have to drop a sheet. Well, yes.
But the effect is the same in that it forces people who are seeking weapons that are drone based. They can't make basically a stack of them. You have to spread them out.
Correct.
Because that is the effect of the Andromedan T-bomb. Because the Andromedans don't have to drop their T panels to put out the T-bomb. People, especially the Zinni, for example, you don't put a huge stack of drones because one T-bomb can take them all out.
Correct. Now, the other nice thing about the ACG is, unlike a T-bomb, I can recharge it.
Right. Understood. But but that was. But my point was that it has the same effect, which is the whole idea of spreading out. You have to spread out your seeking weapons. You can't stack them.
And it also can be the same against fighters.
Right. Well, they make fighters in the tournament.
Yes.
Now,
the Hydrants would have to.
Right.
The Hydrants would have to.
Yeah, but they're the only ones that even have fighters. The rest of them are just shuttles. And the only reason you do it against a shuttle, in my mind, is that if they were suicides, or possibly a scatter pack,
right?
Which is talk about really killing things. Wow. This means the scatter packs has to launch and then launch the drones immediately, kind of thing, instead of having the roving T-bomb. Kind of, command mines. Sorry, command mines is what I'm thinking of.
Now, the downside of the ACG is that, and this is one that can bite you in the ass, is that its best accuracy is at range 1, and at range 1 it hits. It uses 2 dice and it hits on an 11. So if you roll a 12, it's a near miss. And what do I mean by
and
near miss?
And Vanna, what prize do you win for the near miss?
Okay. You then roll a die, and whatever number that is the direction. You walk the damage 1 hex that direction, and that's the hex it damages.
And what does that mean, my dear?
Okay. On your map, most Starfleet battle maps have a section where they have a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, numbering the hex sides or directions. So I think 1 is north, and then 2 goes clockwise. Is it clockwise direction?
Yeah, basically 1 direction A. 2 direction B, 3 direction C, 4 direction D, 5 direction E, and 6 direction F.
Direction, right. So you roll a die, and that's the direction it goes by 1 hex.
And that means that you actually could kill yourself.
No, it actually, if it rolls into your own hex, it has no effect. It will not damage your own ship. It just doesn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, total miss is you do that process twice.
Which actually means that you could possibly hit the hex you
Go
wanted
back
to hit
your
to begin
original
with.
hex. Yeah, you can get a total miss and still do full damage against the hex that was your target. If you rolled like a 1 and a 4. But in any case, the point I'm trying to make is that there's that mega drone stack of death 1 hex away from you, and you fire and you roll a 12, and oops, you missed it.
Right.
If you are going to get hit by that mega drone stack, the next impulse, that's a gamble. You've got a 1 in 36 chance of not killing and getting hit by that stack of death. You die. And you've taken a 1 in 36 chance that you died. So it's better than the odds for a displacement device, but you could do a Burnside maneuver there effectively. Rolling 2 6s.
Yeah. But here's the thing. With a displacement device, even if you fail and you fail, okay, I think this dev, when it comes to self this dev, if you fail, I don't think you ever move. I'm pretty sure you don't. But if you do it against someone else's ship, in theory, you could, even though you fail, you could actually do a random displacement, and then the random displacement might actually go to the direction you wanted to go. Even random displacement would allow you to say, okay, well, if it's going direction 3, it's going to go direction 6.
Right.
So you still have some minor control where you kind of jerk it to the correct direction.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
Yes. Anyhow, so the other thing is okay, I'm gonna grab a bottle of water. So the cloud and beyond range 1, the chances go start to drop down. I think range 3 or so. It actually has a decent chance of a hit out to range 10.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I can't. I don't have the table in front of me, so I'm going by memory. I don't. What is the chance of the hit at range 10?
For the ACG?
Yeah.
That would be 6.
6.
Yep.
2d6s.
Mm-hmm.
So not even a 50% chance of hitting at range 10. So.
Well, you don't get the almighty 7, which has the most probability of any single number.
Right.
Which I don't know what that means for the rest of them combinatorially when it comes to percentage chance of getting 6 or less versus the rest. But
on the other hand, if the drones are spread out in the cloud, it's range 10. It's like, what the heck? I'll drop it in the middle of a cloud of drones. You might want it. It almost might be worth it to drop it into an empty hex with all the surrounding hexes with drones, because you're more likely to get a near miss than you are to get a hit, and have it walk into at least part of the cloud. So it's an interesting weapon.
Oh, agreed.
But I think I'm going to back the capacitor down to 4.
That's one thing I did look up. They upgraded to 6 as of Y143.
Yeah. I guess that's why. But still, 4 is that still gives you. It does twice the damage that the amount of power you put in. So
right, it still kills the drones, still kills the shuttles. It just means less
It won't
damage
kill
to
a fighter, but it'll cripple a fighter.
right.
Yeah. So now, unfortunately, after Steve Petrick said "Thou shalt not," I went back into the tournament cruiser and I said, "Okay, I got to take out the special rule for the phasers." So I put that back in as 1-to-1. Now what do I do? So I said, I need to get most of the phasers in the ship so that I don't have these phasers that are so boogered. So I think I reduced that ship to 4 p.m. ones and 2 p.m. threes, which is like less phasers than a Romulan. And then I gave it an additional antimatter cannon.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 in the front, and then 1 LSL and 1 RFR, so that but that ship never was. I tried it, and it just wasn't workable. So I think I gave you the death file if you want to put the original one I thought was so nice back in. But I don't know if Steve Petrick would allow that.
Right. Okay.
Because as is, the one that's on Starfleet Battles Online right now is unplayable. I know it's unplayable. But I had one that worked real well, but I wasn't allowed to put it in there.
Yeah. What did you originally base your do you remember what the original Caligar tournament cruiser was based off of?
The tournament cruiser was essentially the same one that Ken Burnside provided to me.
Right. Yeah,
and that's why, and the fact that PDF is one I just emailed to you.
Mm-hmm. Understood. I'm just doing a quick check here of the original, the PDF you currently sent me versus the normal Caligar heavy cruiser. It looks like it has one extra impulse, one extra battery, some extra
warp. 30 warp instead of 24.
But right now it has the same amount of phasers as the normal heavy cruiser.
Yes. Yeah. The only differences are in the power systems between, they brought up the standard, the power systems and tournament standards, 2 tractors, 4 shuttles, all that is standard Caligar. I'm not sure the standard Caligar might have 4 shuttles. I don't know.
Yeah, the standard Caligar has 4 shuttles.
It does have 7 transporters.
Well, I would fuss at anyone who would increase the number of transporters, just because of that's based on the ship. Each ship has a different number of transporters. You have Klingon who has lots of transporters versus the Orion who has what? 2?
Yeah.
You know,
I don't remember how many.
So that's one of the things that
not many.
I can understand batteries being tweaked to be more consistent. Possibly some power to be tweaked, and Lord knows we know that for the Archeo, throwing in the shields themselves.
Yeah.
But things like transporters, you don't tweak transporters. These I have 7 transporters.
I didn't tweak the number of transporters that were on the standard Caligar ship. It's
right.
Yeah. Like, okay, whatever. It's not like that's a huge deal one way or the other. I mean, it's nice, but
right.
More extra hits. It's padding. Now the ship does have a turn mode of D, which is significant. Yeah.
Come on.
But then
Look,
again,
Barry, the Satorian has a turn mode of D. The Gorn has a turn mode of D. The Federation has a turn mode of D.
Oh, I'm not complaining about it. I'm saying I think that's a reasonable turn mode for that ship. I think it's very nice in sense that because it's most of its weapons are 180-degree firing arc. Other than the antimatter cannons, but you have an antimatter cannon facing L and another antimatter cannon facing R. So even though you have a lower turning or a slower turning mode, you can very often get shots off to the left side or the right side, and the cloud generators can fire. They're 180 degrees. One is LS, one is RS.
Right.
So the firing arcs of the ship kind of make up for the turn mode.
Oh, agreed.
Yeah. But
very, it's a very interesting ship, and as you said, it's pretty balanced as it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's possible. Maybe just keeping the 6-point capacitor might be a good idea because the cloud really can't do that much extra. It's more of a sandpaper thing.
Yeah, but at the same time,
here's the
thing about keeping a 6. And that is that since it basically is a capacitor, which doesn't have to be used in full like the ESG, that means you get to kind of dole it out a little bit at a time.
Yes. So you're spending less power on it,
right?
Since it starts fully charged.
Exactly, and that's the point, which is that it gives it more capabilities. Because of it can charge it all the way up to 6, like at the beginning of the game, and then just kind of dole it out a little bit at a time.
Right.
Obviously, it's not gonna be like 1 point here, 1 point there. It's gonna be more like 3 or 4 points, possibly if you're putting this against alphas, 3 points. So there's 2 rounds, 2 firings for that generator. And
you
don't have to charge in between the 2. So there's 6 points of power, possibly, obviously using, that you don't have to use immediately.
Yeah, I have no problem going to 4. And that's probably, I could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
But I think 4 might be better.
Yeah.
So I think in our game on Sunday, I think we'll probably go with the 4-point capacitor.
Yep, and I still have to text you my address.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're going to be showing up around 11, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
That's the plan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the one fly in the ointment is that I'm going to be on call with work that day.
Understood. Barry, I'm used to playing with people on call. Mama Sir, actually, no, you don't know him. Oh, Lord have mercy. I used to play with a guy named Greg Shapiro. Greg Shapiro is a doctor, and he is a stomach and intestine guy. I forget what those guys are called. And he was always on call. Invariably,
and when those calls came in, it's like, you don't even have time to log off. You're just running for the door.
Well, usually what it was him getting a call. We paused the game from playing, and he chat okay, and usually after that we just talked about playing after that point.
Oh.
Because we never knew when it was going to be called back because of that patient.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, gastro problems can kill people.
agreed. I'm not saying it was inconsequential. I'm just saying that I'm used to the idea of that kind of environment.
Yeah.
It's just basically enjoy what you're doing right now until you at any moment you might get the call and they're out the door, or or you're gonna stop the game right there. Basically.
Yeah. I'm going to bring a laptop with me because any calls I would have to stop the game, boot up my laptop, and diagnose things over the net.
Right, and
remotely.
then from there, whether decide whether you need to run there or just you can do everything remote.
Oh no! The call could be from anywhere in the country. So it's not a matter of running anywhere. It's a matter of remoting in.
That should say now. Okay. Okay. Well, with that, I think we will wrap it up for this evening. Barry, thank you for
one last thing.
Okay.
For next week, do we want to do the Trowbridge?
That'd be great. Actually, who was it? I think it was. There was. Yeah, Dave was mentioning. Have we done anything with the Soldra?
I did a Soldra. It's actually there is a Soldra ship on the Starfleet Battles Online. I started to play test it. I never, but it's nowhere near.
Okay. We'll go with the Trobrin then, because I think that's been also been pretty well play tested, at least a lot more than most.
Soldra. I think the Soldra has a lot of potential. Soldra is the Omega equivalent of the Andromeda.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, that Soldra is the one that has the dark energy, right?
Yeah.
And that was one of those things that I never implemented in the client, which was the dark energy allocation.
Yeah, the damage
allocation actually changes for dark energy.
Yeah, the energy allocation, the damage allocation was weird.
Yeah.
The dark energy. Because it skipped all sorts of systems.
Right. That was one of the reasons I think I forget when I looked at it. I looked at it, I think last year. Just because I hadn't looked at it for a while. I went, okay, well, let's say how hard is this actually to do? And I went, wow. This isn't just crap. Change the energy allocation table because I actually have programmatically for the client, I have it so it can load up different tables.
Yeah.
Because I have it so that currently I support regular damage allocation, the PF damage allocation, and the Dragon damage allocation.
Mm-hmm. Then you need the dark energy damage allocation.
Right, and that's the question. To what I don't think I could actually have it so that it just did dark and I could actually modify the chart so it's just dark energy.
There are so many things about the Soldra that are different, and some of them is like, hey, let's do this just as we can.
Yeah, but still, I think a lot of people will still be willing to play against a Soldra versus playing against an Andromedan. I think just the PA pounds has freaked people out too much, comparatively speaking.
I think the Soldra actually is easy. Now, we might need to tweak some of the rules, and that's like the dark energy allocation.
Right, and then you have the what's that? The shards, is it?
It has shards.
Yeah,
the shards are kind of interesting.
Yes,
but the thing I like most about the Soldra is its cloaking device.
Oh yeah, that was one of the
displacement dimensional phase device.
Yes,
which is a true hidden. You're popping out of the universe. So you not only are off the board, you cannot be seen, but you cannot be fired at.
Right.
And there's I think that's 64 impulse or 96 impulse delay before you can even start recharging the weapon. And the charging cord and the device, their cloak, runs off a capacitor, which is fabulous because it means you can be going full speed, doing everything, and then boom, you're gone.
Yeah.
For 16 impulses. And then when you come back, you can't even touch it again for 96 impulses. And then, even then, that capacitor took a horrendous amount of energy to recharge.
Right. So basically, you're not going to be doing that very often.
You're going to do it once per scenario.
Possibly twice, because 96 is approximately 3 turns. That's 3 turns. So you might be able to do it twice.
Right.
And that's going to be about it. Most probably once. Right. I agree there.
Yeah. And I think it was on a light cruiser hull. And I think it was, and I'm guessing, because I can't remember the exact number, but it might have been 16 points of energy with light cruiser power.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up because I found I had bought the electronic version of the Omega rulebook, the master rulebook for Omega. And that's why I looked up the HCGs. I can probably look up the soldier weapons.
They are interesting. They are very interesting.
Oh yeah. It's a very interesting ship. I mean, very interesting weapons, and some of those are just nasty.
It has interesting shields too, in that it's got shield, not boxes, but
oh geez, soul shields.
Sections. Yeah, and then you can allocate. Okay, this group of boxes is on this spacing. This group of boxes on this spacing. You can, and at EA every turn, you can allocate the spacings of all your sections of shield. So if you want, you could put all your shield on your number 1 facing.
This is why I can never fly these ships, because I suck at shield allocation. You know, with the specific shield allocation, I could always suck at them. Knew when, where. I could never really guess where people would be firing at. You know.
Yeah, that is the problem. The problem is if you put it all on, say, your number 1, okay. But if he can get around to your number 2 or number 6, you have nothing.
Right.
And when you allocate it, I think your opponent, I'm not sure, but I think your opponent can detect where the shields are. So you've pretty much broadcast what your movement is going to be.
Right. Oy.
Unless you displace or phase.
And I'd have to fix that. I'm just looking at it right now, and it looks like it says, "Oh, there's fighters," but there's not. It doesn't list any kind. Okay, that was one thing. If we ever had the soldier online, I'd have to work on the client support big time.
Oh yeah,
because I brought up the light cruiser and the Wraith, and it says basically to denote where you actually are placing each of the soul shields, use the log feature in the client. It's like, yeah, that's a hack.
Yeah,
that's a total hack.
Yeah,
that's something. That's something that can be done in the client. Cause that kind of support could be added for where are these soul shields, where are they allocated, where are they going. So, anyhow, let's wrap up with that, and we'll be talking about the Trobrin next week then.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'll see you then. You have a good night.
Good night.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
So had a nice discussion there talking about the Caligar and flying them and hopefully winning with them. That's always a good thing. So with that, I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.
Recording pause.